My wife's coworker was apparently more than that. I walked into a diner and found them sitting on the same side of the booth, hands intertwined. I slid into the seat across from them and said, "So, who's paying for dinner? You two or the divorce settlement?" I never thought I'd be posting here. I've read these kinds of stories before, usually with disbelief or a little judgment. But now I get it. It hits differently when it happens to you. When you see it with your own eyes. When you're in the middle of it, not reading about it. I have been married to my wife Danielle for almost 6 years. Together for 9. No kids, just our dog Gravy. We live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I work in logistics. It's not glamorous, but it's steady. Danielle works in marketing. She's the one who talks people into things. She's good at it, real good. Things between us weren't bad. Not amazing either. Just normal. Wake up, work, eat, maybe a show before bed. Weekends were usually spent running errands, maybe a dinner out once in a while. I didn't think we were in trouble. I wasn't suspicious. We had our routines, and I thought that was what being married looked like after a few years. Predictable but safe. Looking back, I realize how blind I was. 2 weeks ago, I left work early on a rainy Tuesday. There was a delay at the docks, so they sent some of us home. Danielle had told me the night before she was going to dinner with a coworker visiting from Atlanta. She said it was a casual work meeting, and that she'd be eating light. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? On my way home, I decided to stop at Ron's Grill. It's this old-school diner just off Wilkinson Boulevard. We used to go there when we first started dating. They make milkshakes the old-fashioned way. I hadn't been there in a long time, but I was craving something familiar. When I walked in, I wasn't expecting anything. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't checking up on her. I just wanted a chocolate shake and maybe a grilled cheese. And then I saw them. Danielle was sitting on the same side of a booth with a man I'd never seen before. Some guy in a light blue dress shirt. Well put together. Confident posture. Definitely not her boss. Not someone you sit beside at dinner unless there's something more going on. And their hands, intertwined. Not just touching. Their fingers were laced together like they were teenagers hiding it under the table. My feet moved before my brain caught up. I walked straight to them. Danielle didn't see me at first. The guy noticed me coming. His eyes shifted, but he didn't let go of her hand. When I reached the table, Danielle finally looked up. Her face went from relaxed to completely drained. She froze. I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I didn't even raise my voice. I slid into the seat across from them, took a second, then said, "So, who's paying for dinner? You two or the divorce settlement?" Dead silence. The guy pulled his hand back. Danielle's lips parted like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. I waited. She eventually said, "Mark, this isn't what it looks like." I just stared at her. I couldn't speak. I didn't know what to say. My body felt numb, like I was watching the whole thing from across the room. She glanced at the guy, then back at me. "This is Travis. He's from the Atlanta office." I looked at him. "Travis, huh? You usually hold hands with your coworkers?" He didn't answer. He shifted uncomfortably, like he wanted to disappear into the vinyl booth. I leaned back, took a breath, looked around the diner. A couple at the next table was pretending not to listen. The waitress who had taken my order years ago was behind the counter, frozen in place, holding a coffee pot. Danielle was still trying to come up with something to say. I stood up. "I'll leave you two to it," I said quietly. "Enjoy your dinner." I drove around for a while. Didn't go home. Didn't call her. Didn't cry either. It was like my brain hadn't processed it yet. Like my body was just going through motions. I finally parked in the grocery store lot and just sat there. No music. No calls. Just quiet. She texted me about an hour later. "Can we talk tonight?" I didn't answer. She came home later than usual. She sat on the edge of the couch like a kid who'd been caught sneaking out. Told me she didn't know how to explain it. Said it was emotional more than physical. That it wasn't serious. "He's going through a divorce," she said. We started talking about work stuff. Then personal stuff. Then, it just happened. I didn't yell. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know more. I slept in the guest room that night. Took Gravy out for a long walk in the morning and just kept walking. Called in sick. Over the next few days, she tried to talk. I wasn't ready. I kept my distance. We lived in the same house but barely crossed paths. I stayed out late just to avoid her. Then came the real hit. One of her coworkers, someone I actually liked, reached out to me privately. Said she thought I should know that this had been going on for months. That Travis had flown in several times. That Danielle always made a point to be the one to host him. Said they weren't exactly subtle about it when they were out at conferences either. She didn't have to tell me that. But I'm glad she did. I confronted Danielle that night. Told her I knew it wasn't just a couple of dinners. She didn't deny it. She cried. Told me she felt alone. Said I was distant. That we were just roommates and she needed connection. I listened. But my mind was already halfway out the door. I moved into a buddy's basement a few days later. Gravy came with me. Danielle said she wanted to go to therapy. That she wanted to work on it. that she didn't want this to be the end. But here's the truth. I don't know what I want yet. I'm still floating. I haven't filed any papers. Haven't made any final decisions. I'm just trying to breathe right now. Just trying to wrap my head around the fact that the woman I trusted, the woman I shared my life with, was someone I didn't really know. I don't know what happens next. I'm not even sure why I'm writing this, except that I needed to get it out. Maybe someone out there has been in my shoes. Maybe you haven't. But if you're reading this and things feel normal at home, look closer. Don't ignore the quiet spaces where things start to fade. I'm not angry. Not yet. Just tired. And honestly, I'm scared of what comes next. 3 days after I left, Danielle showed up at my buddy's place unannounced. She knocked, didn't text, didn't call. Gravy barked before I even opened the door. She was standing there with a folder in her hand. No makeup. Hoodie. Hair pulled back like she hadn't slept. I expected more tears, more apologies. Instead, she handed me the folder and said, "You should know everything now." Inside were printed emails, texts, screenshots, all from her work account. I didn't understand at first. Then I saw the names. Her manager. HR. A woman named Cassandra who apparently worked in legal. There were complaints. Not from Danielle, but about her. Someone had reported her for improper personal conduct with an out-of-state employee. That someone had requested an investigation. And that someone was Travis's ex-wife. That was the twist I didn't see coming. Turns out Travis wasn't just going through a divorce. He was deep in a custody fight, and his ex had hired a PI. She had screenshots, location pings, hotel receipts. And Danielle was in all of it. The company launched a formal internal review. Danielle was pulled into meetings. Her job was on the line. "You destroyed your job for this guy?" I asked her, stunned. She didn't answer. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. She risked everything for a man she wasn't even sure she wanted. "I didn't know it would go this far," she finally said. "I didn't think she'd come after me." I stood there, folder in hand, feeling like I'd been thrown into a soap opera. Except I wasn't the villain or the hero. I was just the guy who never saw it coming. Danielle left without saying much else. Just said, "I'll keep you updated." I didn't care anymore. Then, 2 days later, he reached out. Travis. He found me on Facebook. I hadn't blocked him because, frankly, I hadn't thought to. His message was short. He said he was sorry. That it wasn't supposed to go like this. That Danielle meant a lot to him, but things got out of hand. I didn't reply. I wanted to, but not the way he wanted me to. Instead, I went to my lawyer. I wasn't ready to file anything, but I needed advice. I needed to understand my options financially, emotionally, legally. The lawyer, older guy named Clay, listened to my whole story and then asked me one question that stuck. "Do you think she's done being reckless?" That one hit deep. Because I didn't know. The next twist came later that week. I found out Danielle had been suspended. Not fired, yet. HR was reviewing the case, and the legal department was cooperating with outside counsel. Translation, she might still lose her job, depending on how messy the custody fight got. She texted me one night. "He's not who I thought he was." I didn't reply. Then her sister called me. Out of the blue. We hadn't spoken much before holidays, birthdays, that was it. But she sounded serious. "You need to know," she said. "This isn't the first time Danielle's blurred lines." Apparently, there was a coworker back when Danielle worked in Raleigh. Nothing physical, maybe, but emotional. She had been distant then too. The sister told me their parents had worry back then, said Danielle had a habit of checking out when things got too quiet in her life. I sat on the floor after that call, staring at nothing. Gravy came and rested his head on my knee. That dog knew something was up long before I did. I started noticing the weight of silence. How I could go all day without talking to anyone. How the house we shared didn't feel like mine anymore. How every plate in the cabinet had a story. Every photo frame on the shelf looked like a lie now. The final twist? A few days ago, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No stamp. No return address. Just my name, written in sharp letters. Inside was a single photo, grainy, zoomed in, but it was clear enough. Danielle and Travis, holding hands again, at some rooftop bar. The date written on the back? 2 months before she told me anything about Atlanta. I don't know who sent it. Maybe the ex-wife. Maybe someone else. But it didn't matter. She lied longer than she admitted. And worse, she tried to control the damage after she got caught. Not out of guilt. Out of panic. I haven't told Danielle about the photo yet. I'm not sure I will. Not yet. I'm still watching everything unfold like a slow-motion collapse. No one's been honest. Everyone's hiding something. And the only thing I know for sure is that I'm not the same person I was a month ago. I thought I knew what betrayal looked like. I thought it would be loud, sudden, obvious. But sometimes, it's quiet. It's sitting across from someone you love and realizing they've already left you behind, long before you caught them. I don't know how this ends. But I'm starting to think the real story was never about them. It's about who I'll be when this is finally over. A week passed after that photo landed in my mailbox. No note. No explanation. Just the truth, dropped into my hands like a weight I never asked to carry. I didn't sleep much after that. I went through the motions, work, dog walks, microwave dinners, but my brain never stopped spinning. The more I replayed things, the more I realized that Danielle wasn't just careless, she was calculated. Every tear, every "we can fix this" line, every "he didn't mean anything" speech, it was all damage control. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. I thought about sending her a picture of the photo with a caption like, "nice rooftop view," but that felt cheap. I needed something real, something face-to-face. I needed her to see what she'd done. So I waited. Danielle had mentioned she was still working from the Charlotte office during her suspension. I knew Friday afternoons were when she stopped by the office to check in with HR. I showed up early, sat in my car in the lot, waited. She pulled in at 2:47 p.m. in her black Mazda. I followed her inside a few minutes later, heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my teeth. She was alone in the hallway outside the elevators, scrolling on her phone. I walked up. No warning. No preamble. I handed her the photo. She looked at it, confused. Then her face fell. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. "Does it matter?" I said. "You said it started after the Nashville conference. That was your story." She blinked, looked like she might cry, then didn't. "I didn't want to hurt you," she said. "I thought it was over. I didn't think you'd find out." I snapped. "That's the problem, Danielle. You never thought I should know. You thought lying was the safer bet, the cleaner version of this mess." Someone from the office walked by, slowed down, took one glance at her face, then mine, and kept walking. Danielle looked down at the photo again. "He told me he was leaving her," she said, voice shaking. "He said I was different, that I made him feel—" "Don't," I interrupted. "Don't play the 'we had a connection' card. You had a husband at home, a home we built together." A door opened behind us, HR. Two women stepped out, talking quietly, then paused when they saw us. One gave Danielle a long look, then walked off without saying a word. Danielle turned back to me. "You want me to say I'm a bad person?" she said. "Fine. I messed up. I ruined it. But it wasn't just me. You haven't looked at me the same in years. You've been half in, half out, and I was the only one trying to feel alive again." That hit me hard. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words stuck. Not because I believed her, but because part of me had checked out over the years. I just didn't run to someone else's arms when I did. "I never gave up on us," I said finally. "I just didn't know you already had." She started crying then. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet tears running down her cheeks while she stood frozen in the hallway with the photo still in her hand. I didn't stay to watch the rest. The next few days were quiet. She didn't text. I didn't call. The silence was louder than any argument we'd ever had. Then her sister called again. "She's not doing well," she said. "She lost her job. They let her go yesterday." I didn't ask for sympathy. I wasn't angry anymore, not the way I had been, but something about hearing that felt final. The following Sunday, Danielle showed up at my place again. No warning, just like before. But this time, she didn't knock. She sat on the front step until I noticed her. Gravy barked. I opened the door. She stood up, eyes red, holding a small box. "I brought some stuff you left," she said. And I needed to say something. I didn't stop her. "I ruined everything," she said. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I'm not going to chase after Travis. He's gone. His wife got full custody, and he moved back to Atlanta." I stayed silent. "I lied because I was ashamed," she continued. "Not just of what I did, but of how far I let myself drift away from the life we had. And I know I hurt you more than I can ever fix." She looked down. "You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know I'm sorry. For real this time." I nodded slowly. "Thank you," I said. That was it. She left the box on the step and walked to her car. She didn't ask to come inside. Weeks passed. I started going out more. Met up with coworkers after hours. Took a trip to Boone just to clear my head. Slept better. Danielle and I filed for divorce in late fall. It was quiet. No courtroom drama. She didn't fight for much. I let her keep the house. I didn't want it anymore. Her sister called again months later. Told me Danielle was in therapy. That she was trying to rebuild. I said I wished her well. Because I did. It's strange, really. How people change slowly, then all at once. How trust can crack in silence before it shatters in public. Sometimes I wonder if there was a version of us that could have survived if we just said something sooner. Maybe if we admitted we were bored, disconnected, lonely. But instead, we played house while pretending the foundation wasn't rotting beneath us. I don't hate her. I don't love her either. What I feel is something else, calm. Like the moment after a storm. When the air still smells like rain but the sky is clear. I'm not ready to fall in love again. But I'm not afraid of being alone anymore. Gravy still sleeps at the foot of the bed. The milkshakes at Ron's Grill still taste the same. And for the first time in a long time, I can breathe without waiting for the next lie. Maybe that's enough for now.